Hey, what's up, my fellow masters? So, with the Karna Christmas rerun is of course a related pickup summon banner. I'm sure most will be far more concerned with the ongoing Road to 7 LB6 banner rotations, but just in case there is some curiosity about this rerun banner of the Christmas 2022 event, here is an overview of the featured servants along with their future availability. First up on the rotation is the permanent SSR Lancer Vritra. This dragon lady, whose often misunderstood hobby of making things difficult, is an AoE arts unit. She made her debut back in 2022 with the original run of this Christmas event, so it comes as no surprise to see her on rate up once again for this rerun. Vritra is a fairly capable Lancer. She has a 3-turn art steroid of up to 30% that goes along with a 1-turn critical star absorb increase specific to her 2 arts cards. She can provide the party with some anti-divine extra damage of up to 30% for a few turns, and that's tied to a 30% NP battery for herself. Vritra gets a bit of help on the NP generation side of things, with a per turn NP charge of up to 10% that lasts for a lengthy 5 turns. It also provides a one-time NP damage buff for the party, lasting for the same duration. And for emergencies, Vritra has a one-time guts that sticks around for several turns as well. Her 3-hit arts AoE MP will seal the skills of the enemies for a turn, along with debuffing their crit chance for a modest amount for a few turns. The overcharge is a 3-turn arts resistance debuff that ranges from 10 to 30% based on OC level. Overall, Vritra can perform well enough and is a pretty good arts looper. However, her general NP damage is on the low end when compared to her AoE SSR Lancer peers. However, her party-wide anti-divine buff can come in handy in some multi-core scenarios, along with her long-duration one-time NP damage up for the party. Ultimately, it's hard to make a case for Vritra at this particular time for a few reasons. One is the more compelling Melusine, whose rate up overlaps with our Dragon One-san. Another is Vritra being permanent, which means there is a possibility for spooking on nearly any given banner. And as far as AoE Arts Lancers go, there are 2 good ones that are among the permanent SRs, Percival and Fiona, who you may have already and possibly at higher MP levels. Now, if you would like to obtain Vritra eventually, then she will always have a rate up during the Valentine's events every February. She is also expected to have banners in July 2025 and February 2026, other than the Valentine's banner, that is. On rate up alongside Vritra, maybe to keep the Dragon Lady in line, is the permanent SR Rider Martha. This virtuous holy maiden with perhaps some questionable pet carrying habits is an AoE buster unit. Martha can both heal herself for a decent amount and give herself resistance against debuffs for a few turns. She can also provide healing for the party and conveniently remove everyone's debuffs. Against one enemy, she can remove their buffs, and for a bit of contribution on offense, they get their defense reduced for a few turns. After a rank up, Martha's MP will boost her buster effectiveness by 20% before firing off, and the overcharge is a 3-turn defense debuff that ranges from 20 to 40%. Now, in terms of outright offensive abilities, Rider Martha is not the most prolific, but what she does have puts her general NP damage around the middle of the pack among other AoE SR riders currently in the game. However, Martha does offer some useful things like that party-wide debuff removal, party HP recovery, and ability to remove an enemy's buffs, which can make some gimmicky fights a bit easier to handle. Having said that, I think Martha's use case is rather limited, with other SRs or even some 3-star riders more suitable to the frequent activity of farming. She is permanent, so if you don't already have her, then Martha can perhaps find her way to you through an eventual spook. At the moment, she does not have any scheduled banners in the future. But unless you're trying for Vritra here, then I'd say just be patient and wait for that spook. For this banner, Vritra and Martha will be on rate up from December 6th through to the 17th. Next up is another permanent SSR Lancer, the hero of benefaction, Karna. To many among the Fate fandom, he is the Lancer of Red, and perhaps quite fittingly, he has a buster NP. And he can be considered quite a powerful AoE Lancer. As for his capabilities, Karna can reduce an enemy's resistance to debuffs by a significant amount for a turn, and subsequently seal their NP for that turn. He can boost both his buster performance and NP damage a moderate amount, but just for a turn. On the crit side of things, Karna can raise his star generation and critical damage good amounts, both lasting for a few turns, and this is tied to an NP charge of a flat 25%. Next July, this will be upgraded with a skill rank up that increases the star gen and crit damage effects, plus it adds a crit star gain of up to 40, along with changing the NP battery to a more preferred 30% charge. After an NP rank up, it gains an effect that will debuff the buster resistance of all the targets. Karna's overcharge effect on his NP is to do significant extra damage to those with a divine trait. Currently, among all AoE Lancers, Karna's general NP damage output is the highest, though this will change in a few months when Lartoria Alter edges him out slightly with a rank up of her own. But Karna can certainly dish out the offense, though it's mostly relegated to the final wave as his steroids are short duration. But where he really shines is obviously against divine trait enemies, and I've used him to good effect in many such boss fights. Now, one of the issues Karna's kit had was his awkward 25% NP battery. It had trouble fitting into the double coin sky Oberon system, and it may as well have been 20% rather than 25% in today's meta. But fortunately, his future rank up addresses that and even makes Karna's crit related capabilities far more potent. As an AoE SSR Lancer, Karna can perform solidly overall, and even better when his niche is leveraged. Though, if you need an AoE SSR Lancer, Melusine is still the way to go in my opinion. Fortunately, if you are a fan of Karna, then there will be other opportunities to roll for him every March during the annual Chaldea Boys collection events. Or maybe he'll spook you at some point to save you the trouble. Joining Karna is a fellow Lancer, but of the SR rarity, the Sakura face Parvati. This kind Indian goddess turned pseudo-servant is an area of effect unit with a quick type NP, and for her rarity, she's a really effective one at that. She can buff her quick card's effectiveness and her NP generation rate up to 30% each, both for a few turns. Then for one turn, Parvati can significantly increase her attack and defense, plus massively boost her star generation and even her debuff resistance. And for a bit of support at the cost of 10% of her NP gauge, she can provide a targetable NP charge of up to 20%, coupled with an HP recovery of up to 3k. Par's NP has a decent chance to stun all the targets for a turn, and its overcharge is a party-wide NP battery of 10 to 30% depending on OC level. Now, Parvati was, and actually still is, an incredibly good AoE quick looper, and by virtue of her being a permanent SR unit, meant it was possible to increase her NP levels considerably easier than her permanent SSR counterpart, Bradamante. Though even at NP1, I found Parvati to perform really well in farming your typical archer node, and that targetable NP charge definitely helped me during the early days when I was far more limited with available supports. However, as good as she is, it's probably best to keep saving and wait for her to spook. There are just too many good new servants coming in the short term and longer term to risk SQ specifically on a permanent SR unit at this time. Though unfortunately Parvati does not have any scheduled banners in the future for the moment, so whether you wish to pass up on this opportunity largely depends on her waifu status, I suppose. For this banner, Karna and Parvati are slated to be on rate up from the 9th of December to the 17th. Karna's arch-rival Arjuna is the third and final SSR featured on this pickup summon banner. A central figure in the Indian epic Mahabharata, this somewhat stiff-looking archer servant is an AoE buster unit. He's had a number of interlude upgrades and a rank up over the years. With those complete, Arjuna can buff his crit star gen rate by a significant amount over a few turns, plus grant himself debuff immunity for a lengthy 5 turns. He can recover his HP a decent amount per turn, gain a modest amount of stars per turn, and even charge his NP gauge by 10% per turn, all of them lasting for 5 turns each, and that's on top of a flat 25% NP battery. Then, like Karna, Arjuna has a 1-turn steroid that buffs his buster performance and NP strength a moderate amount. His NP has 2 instant kill effects, a 50% chance to inflict that against all targets, and then an 80% chance to insta-kill targets with a divine trait. The overcharge is a debuff to all enemies' defense for 3 turns, ranging from 20 to 40%. Now, when applying his 1-turn buff to his buster and NP damage, Arjuna is actually one of the stronger AoE archers in the game, but outside of that 1-turn buff, his general NP damage really suffers, and he doesn't have an extra damage modifier like Karna to offset that. If he could somehow loop his NP, that would be okay, but his 25% NP battery just doesn't sync well with Double Cyan and Oberon. It's also hard to leverage his NP charge per turn with a buster NP for farming use. On the other hand, I suppose the long duration several of his skills effects have would shine during a drawn out boss battle. Arjuna's overall star generation and stars per turn would suit an archer's naturally high star weight under those circumstances, and his lengthy debuff immunity would be a good counter to a gimmick-heavy battle. But Arjuna's lack of a hard defense option like an evade or invincibility would need to be mitigated somehow. All in all, it would seem to me that he's kinda more suited to boss battles, but looking at his kit, it doesn't really give an impression of that. In my opinion, if you're looking for an AoE SSR archer, there are better options out there, like Gilgamesh for example, who will pop up a couple more times in the next 3 months or so. And if for some reason you're partial to characters from Indian mythology, then maybe hold out for the AoE arts archer, the goddess Durga. If you feel I have been a bit too harsh on Arjuna and still want to roll for him, but just not at this time, he is expected to have a banner every March during the CBC events since he's permanent. And Arjuna should also have a banner in September 2026 as well. Tagging along Arjuna's rate up is the permanent SR Berserker Beowulf. This Dragon Slayer legend is a single target buster unit, and he's a fairly strong one at that. He can boost both his attack and NP damage for a turn, 30 and 20% respectively. After his first skill rank up, Beowulf can massively increase his crit star absorb and buff his critical damage by 50%, both for 1 turn each. To go along with that, he can supply himself with up to 15 stars. Then after his second skill rank up, he gains a separate 3-turn crit damage buff of another 50%, and 2 damage modifiers, one against the dragon trait and the other versus the giant trait, both for 3 turns. And to offset his Berserker squishiness, Beowulf has a one-time 4-turn guts. His STMP will ignore evasion first before applying damage, and the overcharge is a 3-turn 30 to 50% reduction to the target's critical chance. Now, Beowulf's general NP damage is quite potent, and his output is the highest among his fellow single-target SR Berserkers. This is especially the case if up against an enemy with either the dragon or giant trait. So if you ever find yourself up against an enemy NPC version of Ibuki Doji who has both traits, Beowulf would be a good choice to contend with her. But even with a strong NP, he's not really known for being able to rapidly fire it off one after the other. And that's where his crit damage balances him out, coupled with the fact his niche modifiers are also applied to his regular attacks. Add in that he has a triple buster deck, which is perfect for a Koinskaya or 2 to make him a deadlier crit damage machine. So if he's not able to fire off his NP twice in a row in a boss fight, it should not pose that much of a problem. That said, best to wait for him to come in an eventual spook. Be mindful of that SQ because 2025 is shaping up to be a big year in terms of new servants, and we're not even done with 2024 and Koinskaya's pending banner. And if you don't have Koinskaya, or Oberon for that matter, then Beowulf or any of these permanent servants on this banner can definitely wait. Although it should be noted Beowulf does not have any future banners scheduled as of now. But perhaps that will change. For this pickup summon, Arjuna and Beowulf are scheduled to be on rate up from December 10th until the 17th. And that covers the pickup summon banner for Karna's Christmas rerun. When this event ran on JP, there was just this single banner. But I don't know, I kinda feel like there's a chance for a surprise second banner, though I really hope I'm off on that feeling. Let me know in the comments if you can see Lasengal being cruel enough to throw Arjuna Altar at us unexpectedly. That would be pretty rough on SQ for many masters, I think. At any rate, if you decide to roll for any of these servants because waifu or husbando, then I wish you all the best. And please don't forget to leave a like if you enjoy this in some way. Doing so would be really appreciated. Many thanks for watching, and until the next one, cheers all.